Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with music mogul and producer Trey Taylor discussing his 30 years in the business, working with Aretha Franklin, and his process of producing and songwriting. Hey, it's Sammy Approved for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and I'm sitting down with 3-time Grammy Award-winning producer, songwriter, everything, Trey Taylor.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We are celebrating right now in this very moment, 30 years in the game, February 11th.
1990, I started.
That's amazing. And you decided to sit down with me today.
Yes.
And have a conversation about all of the amazing things you've done in this industry over 30 years.
This is the best time.
That's so dope. I'm like really excited. I kind of tried to suppress my excitement when we first initially talked about it, but I'm over it, especially because you said you're not really celebrating for real. So
I'm celebrating. This is the best way to celebrate is
because
to tell
I
your
didn't throw you a surprise party in here.
No. This is good.
This is perfect. Mm-hmm. No, so we got to talk about it. So originally from Connecticut, come from a family of musicians.
The trick about that though is that it's more so in me because I didn't grow up around my grandfather. My dad died before I was born.
Oh, really?
My mother found out she was pregnant 2 weeks after he died.
Swear.
So I don't know anything, just through family members, uncles, aunts, who told me how he was. But for me to be so much like him
it's in your blood.
It's in me. So when people say, oh, family of musicians, it's like, dang, it's not that I got a chance to sit around and watch them. It's just in my blood.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Dad was an esteemed jazz musician.
Jazz musician. He played piano, an upright bass.
And what?
But it wasn't professionally.
No.
It was like in New York with band members and stuff like that. But it wasn't something in the music industry.
Got you.
Yeah.
So for you, I know that you started taking music seriously around the age of 14 or at the age of 14. Were you playing instruments? Were you like, what was like the first taste or like discovery of music for you, like your love for it?
I would say in church, walking up to the piano and just like thinking that it seemed simple, but then it wasn't simple. And so now it's a challenge. And so it's like, I need to master this. It's so funny because that's that moment, but not understanding what was actually already in me. So you see how things come together. It's like I'm challenging myself. It's a moment where I could do this, but I don't really know that it's already in me, and that activated it.
Got you. This is usually how a lot of careers start in the church, singing or playing an instrument. So I always like to ask that question. But you even extended. I mean, at that point, you realized that it's something you really, really wanted to do, and you went to school to study music theory.
I didn't go to school.
No?
Willingly.
Oh, somebody told you had to go to school.
No, my mom.
So I said, like, you're going to school.
You're going to go to school or you got to do it.
So you didn't want to go to school?
No.
What was your plan for yourself?
Just, I don't know. I hated school. I'm just not a school person.
Yeah.
However, my music teacher in high school found a conservatory in Hartford, which was 45 minutes away. And so the thing about that was it was a 2-year program and it focused only on music. See, the whole math and algebra, whatever that you got to have credits for in college. See, that
wasn't your way.
No.
Right,
and this was music only, 2-year program, in and out. I guess it was a
like an
associate's degree, and that was good enough for me. So that was the deal I made with my mom, and
she was satisfied.
Yeah, she was great.
I mean, but also you studied music theory and record production.
So in that, the theory of chord progressions, and I didn't necessarily learn to read because, again, that's reading. That's
things that you weren't interested in.
But I did learn. My ear got better. The theory of the theoretics of music got better.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important. It's not a lot. I mean, especially in today's era where you don't need it. I think just having an understanding of that, like music theory. I come from music background too, so like I think having at least the foundation is
Yeah,
still important.
and that's what it
it's
gave me, that foundation
foundation.
of chord progressions and knowing what key you're singing in and all that stuff.
Now, for listeners or viewers who have no idea who Troy Taylor is, I'm sure they've heard much of your work, working with the likes of Patti LaBelle to Whitney Houston to Isley Brothers to really Trey Songz, the foundation and signing him and so on and so forth. And we can go on and on. Tyrese, Sweet Lady. Like, I literally listened to that this morning because I knew I was talking to you.
Awesome.
Ran them streams up one time. And then recently Jacquees, YK Osiris, Elijah Blake, and a lot more artists that I could probably name for days. But just in that, and I have to mention Boyz II Men because you won 2 Grammys. That was really the start, right? So I know initially that you wanted to be the artist, though. Like, you were signed, you landed a deal with Motown. So and ultimately you switched directions to becoming the producer-songwriter. So I'm curious to know, upon landing the deal, what changed? And a lot of people that are listening or watching can find this information online, so I don't want to harbor on it, but I do want to kind of just for you to express that. What changed for you after obviously wanting to be an artist and then just saying, you know what, I think I'm better off doing more behind-the-scenes work?
I think it's more about knowing yourself, knowing what you're really capable of. I think people force themselves to do stuff that they're not really, they especially with social media, you see other people do it. It seems simple, it seems easy, but it's not who you are. Me, I knew exactly who I was. I knew what I didn't want to do. What I didn't want to do is play the game of music. And when you're an artist, you have to play that game. You have to dedicate yourself to the game. If they say something whack to you, you got to play the game and not. Because if you do respond, you're going to mess up.
Yeah.
Now they have a reason not to play your music.
Yeah.
Now they have a reason not to put you in a playlist. You know what I mean? And of course, I didn't have to worry about that playlist and all that back then, but radio. You get with the wrong person or the right person and they say something and you clap back. And I'm that type of person that, truthfully speaking, I will tell the truth. You know what I mean? Oh, do you like that song? Mm-mm. You know what I mean? Oh, Troy, why'd you say that? Because I don't. But you're not supposed to say that. See, that's me. So as an artist, it wouldn't have been good. So it was like, you know what? After Boyz II Men came out, and I didn't know. They were kids. We didn't know.
Let me backtrack a little bit. So, during the time that before you made this decision, was there a moment that you experienced that was okay, I know, or you just knew yourself? Was there
no, that's
something
what I'm saying. No, after working with Boyz II Men, and then I was working on my album during that time. Okay. But when they came out, it was wait, so I could do everything I want to do without actually being the artist. I can sing, I can,
It's like a revelation.
Yeah, it was I'd rather not. And so going back to Timmy Regisford and going back to Gerald Busby, it was asking them, can I not? And I hadn't come out yet, so it hadn't been any money spent. So it wasn't anything wasted. You know what I mean?
So Boyz II Men, that was early on for you, and it actually landed you 2 Grammys upon working with them. So, talk about the experience. Boyz II Men is obviously a very legendary classic. You can't deny Boyz II Men when you're talking about R&B. And obviously R&B and that genre of music has been something that from the foundation of your career to even where you are now. So yeah, just talk about that experience, how you linked up with Boyz II Men, what that was like, and then obviously how it allowed you to realize where you should be in the industry.
So, of course, we were both on the same label. The thing about me back then, and even still now, is that a lot of the songs that I wrote and produced just in my room, I was big on harmonies. So when you would listen to my songs, you would hear all these harmonies, and it sounds like it's a group, but it was just me. So with Timmy Regisford and Gerald Busby hearing those songs, they felt like, wow, these songs will work great for these groups that we have signed to the label. Gotcha. So I'm like, okay, and Timmy played Gerald a lot of the songs, and Gerald had a pad and a pen, and he would write down. He had two groups. He had one group over here, one group over there, and he would. It's like, oh, this song would be good for them. This song would be good for them. So those groups, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Boys and Men had been sitting for a while. You know, they had gotten signed a year prior to. So they were a cappella group, and Motown hadn't heard them in their studio yet. So Gerald felt like, wow, these songs might be good for them. And so upon selecting the songs and me not knowing who they are, when there was one particular song that Timmy played Gerald, and Gerald really liked it. When I was like, oh, no, that's for my album. They can't have that. So Timmy was making a recording of a cassette so that Gerald could leave with it. Mm-hmm. So he had to go back and he race or record over that song, another song. Mm-hmm. So after me telling him, like, that's kind of like for me. And so Timmy, you know, rewound the tape and then played another one and recorded it. So now upon meeting the group, I'm sitting down and I'm only like, I think I was 21, going on 22. So I'm sitting down and, the age range was 15 to 17. Wanye was 15, Sean was 16, and Nate and Mike were 17. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're excited. And I'm like, hey, so what songs did y'all like? What y'all pick? And so they were talking about the songs that they liked, naming songs that they like. And Wanye, he said he heard one song that he didn't know the title to, and because he didn't hear it all. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I caught the end of it. And I'm like, I don't understand. Do you know any words in the song and thing? Mm-hmm. He was like, something about your love. And then it hit me like, oh,
that one.
You wasn't supposed to hear that one, which is the reason why they caught the tail end of it, because apparently the song that went over it wasn't as long as. It was a pretty long song. So they caught the tail end of it. So it was like, that's kind of for me, you know, I'm using that for my album. And so it got awkwardly quiet. It's like, so sing. Yeah, you guys sing something. I haven't heard you guys sing. So I always tell this story, and I keep the seconds the same. It's about 7 or 8 seconds of them singing. I'm like, stop. You can have the song.
Wow.
So now they're kids, so they don't know why I'm stopping them in the middle. They thinking they did something wrong. I'm just being casual, like, I'm good. But they're looking like...
That's it?
I'm like, no, I don't need to hear no more.
Right.
You know, they were that good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, what? Man, y'all can have the song. Forget it. So Wanye didn't understand what I meant when I said you can have the song, so I had to explain it to him. You remember the song you said you liked that I said was for me? Y'all can have it. And that was a song called Your Love that ended up being on the album. So they were like, can we finish? I'm like, oh, sure. Yo, you know, and they had sang a Take 6 song. So back then, Take 6 was huge. Mm-hmm. And when they sang that for them, the way they sang, I was like, man, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, they were that good. So that was, you know, working with them and then them coming out made me feel like, well, shoot, I can do everything I want to do and still go to the store and live how I want to live without the expectations of and responsibility of an artist. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did.
Nice. That's a great story. I mean, and then even beyond that, there's so many things that I want to talk about that with you. Well, first off, February 11th, 1990. Mm-hmm. You decided to pack up your things and go to New York. That's Mom, I'm leaving. Mom, I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. And you being the person in New York, or did you have the deal prior to moving?
So it was, I had a partner at the time who lived in New York already. Gotcha. So I went to live with him and his girlfriend. And so we just hit the streets every day in New York, taking the train, doing meetings. So I had signed a deal as an artist to an independent label. And during the course of that, I met Timmy Regisford. Gotcha. Timmy then bought me off of that label, because that's a story in itself. bought me off that and signed me to Motown. So
Were they
that's
not
how
doing
that
anything? Is that why it was the story in itself? Like the independent label? Like
No.
buying you out
The
of it?
story is really like, it's a detailed, intricate story that if I start it, I gotta finish it. I can't cut it short. What? Oh, I can do that.
Yeah,
okay,
you can do all of the things.
All right, so around that time, I was 20. The girl that I was with, it wasn't working. The group I was in, it wasn't working.
Is this the collective that you were a part of, the production, or that's after? This is later.
No.
You were a part of a production collective.
Characters. But this is before.
This is before. Okay, got it.
You making me go to the
Sorry.
beginning.
Sorry.
I try to say it's an extensive story. So I just started taking meetings in New York, and there was a rapper that I produced, a young rapper, and we had did a couple of songs, but couple of songs I sang the backgrounds on. So this is before hip hop with hooks. I'm not saying I created it, but it's before it became popular. So it was a standout, because when the labels would hear, when in the meetings, they would always say, "Who's that?" And I would say, "Me," but I'm the producer. So it's like, well, shoot, why don't y'all do it together? And so I didn't want to, but that meant getting out of New Haven, Connecticut, and getting away from all that was going on. So I took that and I did that. And this one particular label signed us. And in the course of that, I met my ex-partner. And upon recording for that project, I found out how bad the contract was. It was really, really bad.
You didn't have, obviously, anybody look over that.
No, I was too anxious. And when I do master classes, I tell this story because it's for all the kids who get anxious and just, where do I sign? And it's like, no. And I know the feeling. So I have to tell the kids, like, I get it, but it's not worth it in the end. For me, I was in that anxious. They were giving me, we could do this and we can do that. And I'm like, okay, great, But it was bad. It was really bad. Upon that, let me go back. During high school, school time, my jobs were like working at clothing stores but mainly record stores. So in record stores, I would read credits a lot. And that was like the thing, like it gave me, you work at the record store, you get to hear all the music, you get to read credits and, and so there was a lot of things, there was a lot of songs that I liked that had this one particular person. It seemed like he was always either the A&R or he mixed it or he remixed it. And I'm like, every time I saw that name, it just stuck in my head. So upon trying to do my song for the label, I asked if they can get him to mix it. Now, I didn't know that they knew him.
Right.
But when they knew him and they said, get him on the phone, it was like, whoa, oh, snap. Like, you actually know him. And that was Timmy Regisford. So upon setting up the session for him to mix, I came up with this plan. In my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to see him. He works at Motown. I'm going to play him 3 tracks. Technically, these tracks have songs, but I'm not going to play the song. I'm going to play the tracks. If he likes the tracks, then he's going to ask for songs. Then I'm going to say, I have songs to them. And then he's going to say, let me hear them. But I'm not going to have them with me so that he can ask me to come back and I can get another meeting outside of this mix session. That's in my head. It's in my head. That's all I can say is it's in my head. So upon that day of mixing, that was my first time ever in the real studio watching, the tape and an engineer and the spread out of the whole track, of the whole song. And just sitting there and watching. You see this on TV so much growing up. It's like, now it's like me, and that's my song. It's playing in the big speakers. Like, you don't have no big speakers at home. So he came in and I watched him work and I just was like a fly on the wall in the corner. But then he went to take a break. And when he went to take a break, I asked him if I could play him some more music. First, I thanked him for coming in, because I didn't know him. He did it because of the label calling him. So I asked him if I could play him some more music, because he actually liked the song. And so he was eating, and so he was like, sure. And there was a boombox in the right there on the table. So it was this cassette era, so I had a bag full of cassettes. So, plan in motion. I played him 3 tracks. In the middle of the second one, he was eating. He was like, why you don't have songs to these? Where's the songs? Like, you need to write songs to these. And I was like, I do have songs to them. Well, let me hear the songs. I'd rather hear the songs than just the music. I was like, I don't have them with me, though. But I can come back. He's like, okay. That was on a Monday. So he literally set up a meeting on Wednesday at Motown. So now
you're in the door.
I'm like back on the train to see him in that setting. So upon doing that, that's the beginning. That was the beginning of him getting to know me, listening to all my music. And that led to him like, why are you on, you don't, why are you with them? Like, and he was so passionate and so into it. He literally bought me off.
That's amazing.
So that bad contract that I signed,
eliminated because he invested in it.
Because he invested it. And he saw, in my songs mostly, he saw, the ability of who I would later become.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, we needed the whole story.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we needed the whole story.
Sometimes people be like, oh, could you abbreviate it? And it's like, it's a little hard to abbreviate.
No such thing on this podcast. It might require a part 2 because, like I said, we're celebrating.
Okay.
So, to kind of fast forward a bit, though, after ultimately switching your path and realizing, the production space and songwriting space is for you, I'm curious to know, like, your process, even when it came down to just, like, creating, is it like you hear a melody? Do you see the song? Like, what do you visualize before you begin creating? Is there a process for you?
Well, I play a little bit. So I usually tend to make the track first, and then the melodies come to me and I can hear the lyrics and all that stuff. So I tend to make the music and then I write to it.
Gotcha.
That's usually how it goes. Every now and again, I can hear a melody in my head and it'll go bring it to life.
Right.
But the most part is the music first.
Gotcha. Okay, and of course, there's so many legends that you've been able to work with, but of course, your 3rd Grammy comes from Aretha Franklin, which I read about, just you being a true fan of Aretha. And
and never knew I would ever work with her, ever. Like, some people are legends and you look up to them, but you don't really think you're going to work with them. It's like, that's Aretha. Like, that's Aretha. Like,
how did it ever, like, come about for you? Like, for people who don't know, like, it's, from not even expecting, not putting it into the atmosphere necessarily, just being a true fan to actually working with her.
I met a guy named Joey Arbogee, and he was signed. He was an A&R at Aretha Records, and he had asked me he was working on Aretha's album, so he had asked me for some songs, and so I had some.
Did you know at the time it was for her, or he was just asking you?
No, it was for her. Yeah. So it was like, wow, okay, I got something I think will be good. And a good friend of mine, co-writer of mine, Gordon Chambers, he and I did this one song called Only Thing Missing. So I gave it to Joey. He played it for Aretha. She really liked it. Now, let's go back. Before all of that happened, I had worked with Mary J. Blige, right? So I'm in the studio with Mary. We did 3 songs. And this was supposed to be for her next project, right? During the course of this next project, she mended her relationship with Puff. So Puff was now involved in the next project. She felt like Puff was going to mess with those songs, so she didn't want to use them on this album that she's collaborating with Puff again. So she did not use those songs. When I got with Aretha for Only Thing Missing, the first song, we hit it off really well. We recorded it. in her house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you with her?
Yeah, it was. She didn't want to go to the studio, so they just set up a booth in her dining room, and so it really, really well. And I'm a Aretha Franklin connoisseur, so I know how she is and how to work with her. So it went well. After that, I hit Mary up, and I was like, "Yo, if Mary was not having anybody else do her songs. Period. Like no other chick can do her songs." Mm-hmm. But I was like, Mary, I just worked with Aretha Franklin. What do you think about Aretha doing these songs? And she was like, that'll work. She's like, you could play them for her? I was like, yes. So I forgot to note that Aretha asked for more songs. So I had those songs already. So when Mary said yes, I sent them to Joey. And then he sent them to Aretha, and she loved them. So I went back. During the course of recording those two songs, after those two songs were recorded, that's three, L.A. Reid was head of Arista. They heard how I had her sounding. So there was another song that she had recorded with another producer, but it wasn't right. It didn't come out to how they wanted it to. So it was like, well, let's see if Troy could recut it on her. Mm-hmm. So I recut it on her. It came out amazing. And that's the song that won the Grammy for Best Traditional Vocal by a Female, wow. R&B Vocal by a Female. Wow. It was like, the song was called Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And it's on an album that she did called So Damn Happy. Mm-hmm. And so that song, it was like, that song I did in the studio, but she was like cooking in the kitchen. It's really crazy. Like, she was cooking? Yeah, she loved to eat. But it solidified our relationship to the point where she had did an interview in 2003 that I did not see. Yeah. I didn't see till years later. Yeah. Someone told me about it. And was like, yo, did you ever see that interview that Aretha, said about you? I'm like, no. And they sent me I'm about to lose my freaking mind.
I'm sure.
I didn't know all these years she had said that about me. So that's like one of the most highlighted things in my whole career. Sure. That to hear Aretha Franklin.
What did she say exactly?
She said that I was a terrific writer, songwriter, producer, songwriter. Like, because I was working with her. It was other songs that I did that she didn't use. And so she was going to make a new album and start using the songs she didn't use. So when the interviewer asked her, about those songs.
She was talking about.
Right. And so we had a relationship to where she would call me randomly and when, I really want to record that one song, da-da-da-da. And you know what I mean? So it became a thing where it's just like.
Is this real?
Yeah. And it's not music necessarily industry-ish. It's, hey, Troy, how you doing? This is Aretha. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. I forgot to mention that while I was working with her on that first song, I was working on Trey Songz' first album. So the Gotta Make It song, I did a remix for it, and I asked Aretha to get on it because, it was right there. And the connection to that is I met Erdogan, who signed Aretha to Atlantic. He's the founder of Atlantic Records. Trey, he was still alive, and he was still at Atlantic. He had his office in Atlantic. Mm-hmm. And Trey had met Ahmet. And so Ahmet really liked Trey Songz. And so when I worked with Aretha, I brought in like, hey, Aretha, I got this artist that I'm working with. He met Ahmet, and Ahmet really liked him. Oh, really? Let me hear him. Okay. And so she heard the song, and she really liked his voice. So I was like, so would you be cool to get like on a remix? Like, right. Can I just like, and she said, go ahead and play it. And I played it, and she started bopping to it. She said, okay, what you want me to do? And I was like, you could just sing, ad-lib, I don't know, and she actually did it. And so after she did that, I asked her to give Trey some words of encouragement, some words of wisdom or whatever, and I recorded it. So if you listen to Trey's very first album, the first voice you hear is Aretha Franklin.
Yeah,
what?
Snap.
What? That was like, what? You know what I'm saying? So that's the connection of how that happened. But, I'm sorry, you just couldn't tell me that I would have that type of relationship with Aretha Franklin. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
That wasn't something I dreamed of.
It just was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
You
for
guys were
sure, for sure.
supposed to meet. And I also think that an important thing about you sharing that story and just something that you said in past interviews is you spoke about studying the people who inspire you, because obviously that record that you actually won a Grammy for was already cut with someone, which I didn't know prior to this, but was somebody else that produced it, right?
Yeah.
But they needed you. And so
To bring
to bring
because
it to life.
it wasn't capturing Aretha Franklin.
So what did you study or observe, or how did you study her even from afar to know like what it was? Is it just, was it innate, the chemistry that you all had
I think it
together?
was more so Aretha don't sing like that. No, why you got her singing like that? Like what in the world? No, I got it. I understand. I know exactly what to do. And so knowing who she is and her cadences and how she approaches her songs, that was something that was the reason why she liked working with me, because I didn't try to turn her into somebody else. Also, I kept her sounding fresh. So not so old school, not so new school, where it's like, they got Aretha trying to sound like she, but respecting the fact that she's Aretha, but making her sound fresh.
Right.
And I think that's what, that's why they gave me the song, to say, let's see what Troy could do, because this ain't working, but the song is good.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think it's also just a matter of being a student to the game, and just speaks to your evolution as a
Yep.
producer, as a songwriter. Over the years, you've been able to keep it fresh, just, yourself, and like also the people that you choose to work with. That speaks to who you are, and also wanting to teach the game. So I want to bring it around, and we will get to Trey Songz, because that's, I'm sure, an important part of the career. But you've kept your foot on the pulse of what's going on in music, working with up-and-coming artists. How does that mentality like keep you in the game? And you were actually quoted saying, helping legends stay legends and creating new legends is how you created that longevity in the business. But how? Like, what does that look like to you? Are you listening to a lot of music? Is it, like, what does that look like for you in terms of like still continuing to be a student?
Well, just still following what's going on. And since I'm originally from the New Jack era, just watching music as it evolved. And in the placement game, as a songwriter and as a producer, you got to keep up. And so when a new style comes in, presents itself, everybody wants their own sound. I think you learn the sound that's out, and then you add your twist to it.
What would you say that looks like today in like R&B right now?
2-chord progression, same thing through the whole song, no changes, no harmonies, no arrangements.
Yikes.
The same melody, over and over, repeat. Now, it works because it hypnotizes people to, know the song faster, but it also goes away faster. So it's like, okay, how did we get here? 2 chords? 2. Not 4 with a turnaround. 2. Dun 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 dun. Like, really?
Like a nursery rhyme.
Yeah. And it works, but even nursery rhymes is a little bit more
bit more complex.
Yeah, a little bit more interesting than but just saying, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta keep it fresh. I gotta stay up. But where can I add something different? And that became the challenge. How do I keep my integrity of what I know it should be, but also give the kids what they like? Because regardless of whether I like it or not, it ain't about me. It's about them. And if this is what they're into, whether I like it or not, if I want them to buy it and now stream, I got to do what I got to do, because this is it's not for me. So dedicating my time to listen, okay, this is what they're doing now. Okay, autotune is evolved now. It's the sauce. Okay, I get it. All right. All right, if we're going to use this, I have to figure out ways to sound good with it.
I'm sure that even with, not to cut you off, but like with the technology and how things have changed, we're not using cassettes. We're not, it's so many plugins, there's so many options. How do you find it like advantageous for you, or do you find that it could be a disadvantage for like the music, the quality of the music?
No, like I said, it's the sauce.
It's the sauce.
You got to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no matter how good you make it sound on the actual music, actual recording, you still got to sing it live.
At some point.
At some point.
Yeah.
But you know what? If people like the song, I noticed in concerts now, they sing the whole song. So you really
not performing.
Don't have to do anything much. If they love the song, they want to watch them sing the song. You can literally hold the mic out. And I see everyone doing it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But on the come up, you're going to have to get people into that song. So you're going to have to sing it before they know it, to sing it all. And you don't sing it. So good luck.
That's facts. Well, you were about to say something about working with Trey Songz.
With Trey, he does have auto-tune on it, but not to use it as a crutch. It's we literally use it as the sauce. So he'll record without it and then put it on after.
Gotcha.
Just to give it that little, that sheen. So we're real cool on, like making sure, and I'm not downing anybody who uses it extra, but for Trey Songz specifically, there is no auto-tune sound. And if it is, it's for that particular song.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So, I mean, shifting to Trey Songz, I know eventually we talked briefly that you were part of a collective, a production company. But eventually you formed your own company, which is Songbook Entertainment in 2003. And I heard it was inspired, or I read that it was inspired by Stevie Wonder's Talking Book. Yep. Talking Book. So from there, you end up signing Trey Songz to the production company, or to the.
Well.
How did that work?
So let's talk about how I met him.
Sure.
So, Trey's stepfather went to high school with my partner at that time.
Oh wow.
So it was like, we were already in the music industry. So it's like, yo, can you listen to my son, man? He said he wants to sing. I don't know. Just listen to him and tell me what you think and give him some advice. So my partner at the time was he's the business part of it, and I'm the music side. So it was like, okay, so he asked me to listen to him. And so Trey came over to my house, and I lived in Jersey at the time. So he came over to my house, and he came down in the basement, and he sang Donnell Jones, Where I Want to Be. And so I noticed how he kept his tone, how he kept his note. Sometimes people sing and they go to another, like the louder they get, they go to another key. It's like, do you not hear you're shifting keys? Like, but he stayed right there. He sang the song. He sang it how it goes. It wasn't I'm blown away, but it's a like, whoa, there's something in there.
At a time that it probably wasn't a lot there.
I mean, he was rapping at the time, so
True.
it was like the kid in high school that sang in the hallway.
Right.
But he's known to be a rapper, but he's playing around singing, and everybody's like, yo, you need to, it's that kind of thing. Gotcha. So he was coming to see me to see if he should do it for real. And so I was like, okay, that was pretty good. You write. And he was like, yeah. So he sang me one of his songs. And so I was like, you know what, let me come over here. Let me sing it again and let me put some music to it. So he sat there and watched me do all of that. And so I had him pull up, because I don't like vocal booths. So I pulled him up, had him like something like this, where's the mic, and we put on the headphones. And I said, okay, when I point to you, sing that hook that you gave me. And so he did that, and just watching him like listen and do, listen and do, listen and do. Not, wait, how? Boom, 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 boom. If you got that flow, it's like, that says a lot about you. So he was great at that. That's what I liked about him the most. He was like, and so once I really paid attention to his interaction, to, me telling him, then it came time for me to test his ear to see if he could maintain his note doing harmony to another note. Because, a lot of people can't do that. So I gave him a note, and I said, I want you to do some harmony. So he looked at me like,
harmony, what's that?
Yeah, like, I'm like, you know what harmony is, right? He was just like, no, he was only 15. So it was like, no. I said, okay. All right, so in church when they have the soprano, alto, tenor, He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm going to give you an alto note. He's like, okay. So I gave him the note, and he didn't know. He didn't know what he was doing. Mm-hmm. He didn't know that he was doing it right. He just did it. And I'm like, whoa, okay. All right.
We're on to something.
Kept the same note. Did not go down to the other note. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you another one. And so that's how it started. It was the summer of 2001. Yeah, the summer of 2001. And he was about to go back to school because he lived in Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so, because his stepdad lived in Jersey, mm-hmm. not too far from my house. So, he went back, his mom screaming, and she heard the song, and she was so excited. And so she's like, what do I need to do to keep him going? And so at that time, it was SkyTel pagers. So I told her to get him a SkyTel pager so we can stay in touch. And made a deal, his grades have to be immaculate. He has to da-da-da-da, or I'm not messing with him. So that's to keep him focused. So she did that. And then school breaks, holidays, he would come and hang out. And in the summer, he came to hang with me that whole summer. So that was pretty much how it started with him.
That's dope. Yeah, I mean, from Panty Drop It and Neighbors Know My Name, Say like those
years later.
Years later, he's you worked with him enough to develop these like really big hits for what we know now as Trey Songz, mm-hmm. or who we know now as Trey Songz. I think that speaks to a lot of your dedication and like what you
just really staying on them and pulling.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot. It's the reason why people don't really make stars now.
Right.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like you got to go into their world, mm-hmm. and you got to be dedicated. You can't just step in. Oh, you see something you don't like and then leave. Mm-hmm. You got to stick it out and see who they are because you don't know what you're building.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's. I mean, are you interested today in building stars still?
Oh no, that's what I still do.
That's what you still do.
No, that's part of the essence of who I am.
Right.
As far as like, I think making songs is good, producing songs is good, but one of my purposes. I have a few purposes.
What are your purposes?
One of my purposes in life is to grab what's in you, look at it and analyze it, break it down, build it up. Some people are good to grab, but they can't break it down. Some people are good to grab, break it down. Some people are good to grab, break it down, but they can't build it up. Some people are grab it, break it down, build it up, but they can't turn it into the final. So it's processes. I've been blessed to be able to break it down, to see it, break it down, build it up, and then polish it. So to me, that's a gift. You know what I mean? That it's nothing better than watching somebody's dreams come true mm-hmm. right before you. You know what I mean? So I still love to do that. It's not cool sometimes because you could do all of this and then find out that they're not really for you, and they go and make somebody else a whole lot of money after you done did all of that. So it's a chance you take, but I don't believe in signing people that don't want to be signed to me. You have to want to be signed to me.
Right.
It's not my gift to you. It's what God gave you, an ability he gave me to build it up. So if I don't make money off it, or if you don't sign to me, if I waste all my time, God will reimburse me somewhere else.
Somewhere else, absolutely.
So
I agree with that 100%. So, I mean, we kind of spoke about, just the idea of, or not the idea, but the fact that you have won 3 Grammys. We didn't say this publicly, but like you have been acknowledged for being my producer of the year. You've gotten these accolades, but and I've heard this a few times with people that have sat right next to me that they've won these Grammys but it's never really enough. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to know if there was any significance to the awards for you, if any, and how does it like really feel, because you didn't win not one, you won 3, and then you go on to like win these other awards. Is what truly fulfills you, if not the acknowledgement or the accolades? Has that changed even for you? Like maybe initially when you came into the business, it was like, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and then you got it and you're like, well.
It's not the same, or
it has that changed for you? Is it?
Nope. Nope. Getting the plaques, it's still fun. It's more fun than anything. And there's so many twists, turns, and vibes and attitudes and whackness in the game that if you can get a plaque from it, at least it's like, okay, at least I have something to show for the hard work that I put into it. The Grammys and all that, that's the top of the line award. So I don't think less of it now that I have it. And sometimes people be like, oh, that's it's cool. No, it's still, unfortunately we don't have CDs to rip open to see my name because I still love that, Now it's just to go online and hear people listening to it and appreciating it. To me, it's still rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to ask because I had a conversation with a younger artist who was nominated for a Grammy during Grammy Week, and we were just talking, and he was just very blah about it, and I was just like, I mean, at least you hear, at one point you wish that you were at least, nominated, even if not winning a Grammy. So I don't know. To me, I don't make music.
Was that one of their goals?
I don't know. That I asked. We had the conversation, so that's why I wanted to ask you.
That was one of my goals. I want to, definitely.
I mean, I think that it was his goal. I think that once he got it, though, it's sometimes you think about it, you end up getting what you asked for, and it's not quite what you expected.
Or this generation, once they did it, it's over. Okay, on to the next. Dude, that was yesterday. Yeah, I know, that's old. Dude, that was yesterday.
Literally,
you're not going to at least celebrate it for 3 months? No, I got to do something else. Whoa, what do you mean? The whole world don't really know. You going to promote it? No, I talked about it on my story.
Yeah.
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 So that's
maybe it is
now.
A generational thing.
Yeah.
Sure. We have to wrap it up. There's so many things that we have not discussed.
Has it been 40?
It's been over 45 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
And
we're just getting started.
We're just getting started. Yeah. And we've been here. So I do want to talk about all of the things, the fact that you produced, I don't know if you produced or wrote, but Bump, 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 B2K.
So I produced the vocals.
Okay.
Because R. Kelly produced the song. He wrote and produced the song. But I produced the vocals because he couldn't go.
Got it. And
he was in trouble.
Got it. Yeah, we won't even talk about it. We're gonna move forward on that. I mean, but you are a music supervisor, so outside of the music, just doing music, you're a music supervisor on Star. Mm-hmm. So you got your taste of a really great show.
TV, man, that was great.
Yeah.
Jonte Austin, my little brother, brought me in on that one. Mm-hmm. He was a music supervisor, but he brought me in on it, and that gave me the experience to really know how to make songs for TV, which is totally different than the radio. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So is that something that you're continuing to...
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's stressful, especially Lee Daniels. It's stressful because he's such a creative that he can have an idea, you execute that idea, and then he hears it. What if it does? What if I have something like this? Wait, what? I just spent 2 days on that. No, that's cool. And then you got to do something else.
Yeah. It's frustrating, but it's another challenge,
Definitely.
Yeah, another challenge. So what can we expect for, I mean, I really want to know, I know, Luke, we got to go, but I really want to know, how you go about choosing who you work with, because I know that we talked about it off the record, but, you work with a lot of, up-and-coming artists, or just, artists in general that you find talented. But, what's that process look like for you now, especially in the digital era? Are you looking more online for, what's popping? Or is it people reaching out? I'm sure it's a combination
People
of things.
hit me. They hit me in my DM.
Yeah.
I ask God for a certain discernment, a spirit of discernment to be able to look at people and get something from them to tell me. Because it's a lot of talented people, but I can't work with everybody. Also, there's a lot of talented deceiving people what they're talented, but then they got some things going on. Mm-hmm. So I ask God to give me the insight by just going through their page and getting a feeling to say, check that person out a little bit more. Maybe I won't work with them, but check them out. And sometimes I'll respond to them and, see if there's something there. And every time, every artist that I decided to work with, the reason came out.
That's dope. That's dope. That's definitely a different level of discernment that you have to have within yourself. So, I mean, what's next for Troy Taylor? What are we expecting for you?
Okay, I executive produced Drew Hill's next project.
Swear.
Yes. And the
When's that
single
coming
just came out. The single's out now.
I saw that.
And then Duval, got the song with Duval featuring Jacquees and Tank. That's
Wait,
hilarious.
when is we don't know when Drew Hill's project's coming out? We can't know
The whole project, I don't know.
Okay, gotcha.
They just released the song.
Gotcha.
They're one of the singles. So I don't know that, but it's pretty much done.
Nice.
So I just don't know the release date.
That's amazing. I love
I've been working on that for 2 years.
Exciting.
Yeah.
To finally
they have
get
the
it, let it
Unsung
go.
coming out too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
still working with Trey on his next project, which will probably be his eighth album. Have a lot of music, and that's really, really good. I have a song that went viral that I produced called My Truck. It's an artist named Breland.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of my co-writers. He ventured off into doing country trap. And we didn't know. We just put it out. It's just like gone viral. He got signed to Atlantic.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Off the song.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's right now it's doing amazing. So this would be my first viral song.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. 30 years in the game, 3-time Grammy Award winning, many more to come.
Yes.
For Troy Taylor. And I'm excited to hear all of the amazing projects and things that you have coming out. And so for the people...
we at 50.
For the people... I mean, we can always do a part 2, don't you worry. But for the people, let them know where they can find you online so they can keep up with what you have going on.
My Twitter and Instagram is at Troy Taylor TTU. I see Twitter is still the thing. I don't be on Twitter.
I love Twitter.
I'm on Instagram.
You're a writer. You should love Twitter.
I don't, but I didn't even, I'm just realizing they're still into that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, people are still using Twitter.
Yeah.
I got to get back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so make sure y'all follow Troy Taylor and check out what he has coming up next. And as always, you guys can find this podcast at IDM Podcast on social media, as well as myself, Sammy Approved, on all platforms. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Sonically superior.